C1music.fm, real talk. We in the building. I got the fellas in the building. What's going on, fellas? Let's give ourselves a round of applause for soldiering through, man. You know what I'm saying?
Always
Yes,
excited for
sir.
this
Yes,
one.
sir. Yes, sir. We in the building today. So first and foremost, fellas, how are you today? Me and Fritz were just talking about the weather and stuff. How are you guys there in your locations?
I am doing great from Nairobi, Kenya.
Nice, nice, nice. What about you, Joe Ash and Fritz?
Weather is good here in Manila. Fritz, are you
Nice.
in Manila?
No, in Bulacan. It's a bit
Okay.
hotter here.
Oh,
Yeah, we were just talking about the weather and the mountains and the water and stuff there. So that's what's up, man. Well, shout out to everybody who was tuned in to us today. I appreciate the fellas for coming on. We are doing another success part. So last week we kind of talked about success in relationships and things of that nature. I want to today change it up and talk from a spiritual standpoint. Um, I want to ask from as a Christian for the fellas, as a Christian man, what does success look like from a spiritual standpoint, from a Christian standpoint? What is success? If you was to recognize a pastor or a good friend, a family member, whatever, and you like, yo, he was a role model. He was successful in his life. What as a Christian in general, what would that look like? Success. Any one of y'all can jump on that.
Go on, Josh.
go Fritz. Gonna support your. That's kidding. Well,
uh,
Aaron. Okay.
Go ahead, go
Okay.
ahead.
You wanna go first? Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So first thing I was thinking when Aaron said that, I was reminded of David. You know, there's a verse in Acts where he said after he fulfilled God's purpose, he fell asleep. So I think it's fulfilling our mission in life. I think that's success for me. Being able to fulfill whatever that mission is. That God given purpose.
Okay.
That's for me.
Is everybody else frozen? I don't know. It looks like Fritz and Eddie is frozen a little bit. I can see Eddie move, shaking his hands, but on the side, but on his picture, he's frozen.
Yeah, no, I'm shaking my.
Are you guys frozen? I can't tell.
Everybody's moving for me, so I don't
Me
know.
too.
Everybody's fluid.
Yeah.
Eddie, you there,
Oh,
Eddie? I can't hear you. I can see
Can
you.
you hear me now? Can you hear me?
I can see you in the little box, but on the main box, I can't. You're not showing me no love. All right. If you guys saying y'all good, we good. All right. So that was a good answer, Joash. So you saying fulfilling your purpose that God has put you here on
mhm.
this earth. Am I
Yes.
correct? Is
Yeah.
that right?
Yep.
Gotcha. All right, hold on, guys. I can't. I need to see everybody's fluid.
Go
It's
ahead. Go ahead.
messing me up. Hold on just a second. I got
Part three.
This commercial is brought to you by.
all right. Now we're back. We're love. Everybody's back. All right. Sorry about the interruption. It seemed like every time, like once this happened to me on my last show we did on Monday, like everybody got frozen for a hot second. All right. Eddie, talk to me. Eddie, you next. What is success? I think Joash. First off, let's let's ask ourselves: do y'all agree with Joash's answer, or do y'all think it's something same the
I,
same?
I I do agree partly.
Partly, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Now,
agree with him, but I don't agree with his example. I agree with Joash. I agree with you saying that um fulfilling your God ordained purpose on earth. I do agree with you. That's the partly part that I agree with. I don't. David was definitely successful. David was one of those characters in the Bible where he had he had some victories and defeats. You know what I'm saying? He's not the perfect role model to follow after in regards to picking a person to say, "Yo, I want to be like David." One of the things I will say, the thing that stands out about David is he had a heart for God. So, um, if I was to take anything
Mm,
from his life, I would take his heart, him wanting to have a heart for God. But he did have a lot of failures, um, as
yeah,
well. So he,
agree.
if I can't 100% say that he was completely successful, but I think
Mm.
he did his winning and losing for the
Oh,
most part of his life with the right heart. Would y'all agree with that or no?
that's
Disagree.
cool. Agree, agree.
Yep, I agree.
All right,
Point
cool,
taken.
cool. All right, so then go ahead, Eddie.
So, for me, I think success is when you've achieved something. And since we are talking about from a spiritual standpoint, I, I, I personally cannot say I'm successful spiritual because I've not finished the journey yet. So, but if we are going to talk about people that have already passed on, well, then we could talk about them. But for me, I'm still alive, and it's a journey. I'd be best placed to answer this question when I'm in heaven, I guess. I'd say I lived a successful
I don't
spiritual
know if
life.
I
Yeah.
agree with you too, Eddie. Let me go back and say this, Eddie. So here's and I want to stir the pot up a little bit for this discussion. But the reason why I disagree with you, Eddie, is Eddie. Let's look at Joash's question. I mean, let's look at Joash's statement that he made, and I want to highlight it to you. Are you living in your God ordained purpose today? Are you
Whether I
fulfilling
am
your God
living,
ordained purpose? Do you even know what your God ordained purpose is?
honestly, I don't think I do.
So you can't sit here and say that we have to wait until we are passed on and dead to see if we have achieved our purpose or fulfilled our purpose or not. I think you should try to take full advantage of fulfilling your purpose now. And I'm gonna let Fritz answer the question next before I give my own personal opinion on it.
Maybe,
But yeah, yeah, yeah.
maybe before he does, for me, success is and after you've accomplished, you've done, you've already finished doing what you're supposed to. Then we can measure your success. If I want
I
to
so
measure my
so
success,
hold on, Eddie. We can so I don't like how you framing that though, because
Mhm,
the success got to mean the same thing across the board. When we talked about a successful relationship or having a successful relationship, we didn't say once the relationship is done, we can look back and say it was successful or not. You know what I mean? So I can't work with for me personally. I can't work in those parameters that you're setting for
mhm,
me, saying
mhm.
that the job has to be complete in order for us to say success. I disagree with you on that, because if that was the case, then it would be that way across the board when we talk about everything about being successful. Do you? I mean, fellas, talk to me. Do you
I
agree?
could
Disagree?
I could actually argue that it cannot be a success. Okay, nothing is successful till it is finished. Then is that a wrong statement to make? Nothing is. You cannot say something is
I
successful.
disagree with you.
Okay, then
I would personally
I mean,
disagree with
if
you.
if we're talking about, I think if you're talking about ultimate, like ultimate success, of course, as you live your Christian life, there are successes that you'll be achieving. For example, you're short tempered, and now you're more patient, you're more kind, right? So I think those are counted as successes when you also manifest the fruit of the spirit and things that you're able to obey and sacrifice for your obedience to Christ. So I think, Eddie, I get your point when you talk about I think the ultimate success, because all of us, we are not. I think that's also a something that we can ponder upon when we think about success, because ultimately we can never determine, right? When we, of course, we can have assurance, right? But in the end, it's not for us to measure or determine if we will be able to hear from Jesus himself that, well done and faithful servant, because ultimately he is the judge and he will be measuring the things that we've done. But But if we are defining success in the spiritual, in the spiritual sense, as we walk our Christian life, I believe that uh we are able to measure those things. The closer we are from the word, or how rooted we are from the word, and how it manifests in our life, if if we are able to display and like I said, manifest the commandments of Christ, his love for us and for his church. So the closer we are to that, I think that's a success.
I because on one hand, Fritz, I disagree with you, and then on the other hand, I do. It's like when you first started off, I was like, yeah, I'm not agreeing with him neither, and then you cleaned it up at the end. So I guess for me, we have to now ask ourselves, I when we say Christian success, are you what are we do what is the uh what is determining that um the criterias, because I feel like you guys are pulling multiple different criterias into, and we smashing this all in to kind of one fulfillment of answer. Like on one hand, I could see where Eddie is coming from, right? When he says the job is not done. I get where you're coming from, but I I don't I don't know if I 100% completely agree with that, because there's a couple of things that the Bible does teach. Um, like you could see if somebody is successful by their fruit, all right? By their fruit. I mean, that's one thing. I think a second thing, especially as a father, I think raising your kids is ultimately, you've become successful if your kids are successful. Because as a man, the two things that you are put on this earth to do is serve. So you are A, we know them by their fruit, right? And then B is to be the godly priest of your home. So if everything else in this world outside of that, preach the gospel and be a role model to your kids. You to me, that's where I would measure. That's to me where success starts and finishes for me. Because if you then go with your God ordained purpose, I get that part. But every man on earth, the creed, you got to be you. We are all professed to proclaim the gospel. Disciples teach disciples. A and B. More importantly, if you have children, to raise your children up in the right way. Those are established from the very beginning to be
Clear
the
directive.
priest of your home. That's inherently. So if you're gonna ask yourself, at the very least, if you never did get to a point where Eddie is saying, "Oh, when I passed away and I look back at my life, was I completely successful in God's mission?" As long as you did those two first requirements, you were successful, because that was what was required of us. The the godly ordained purpose part is something that God put on your life, and sometimes it take a long time to get to the point where you even understand that. So you said for you, Eddie, that you don't even know if you really know if you even operate in your godly ordained purpose now, and that's something that sometimes God doesn't reveal that to you. It's on His time when He does. So the only thing that you can do in the meantime is do the two requirements. And that's my argument. I mean, it's up for debate. Y'all can disagree with me. I'm cool with that. I mean, Fritz, I mean, Joe asked, what do you think? What I'm saying? Am I right? Wrong? Well,
Yeah,
Well, for
I get
me, go Fitz.
Yeah, I get what Aaron was saying, and also Eddie. By the way, Eddie, I appreciate your honesty and vulnerability with regards to being honest about where you are in life right now. I think um, I always think about this when it comes to you know fulfilling our purpose in life. I always do comparison with Apostle Paul and the thief on the cross because um I imagine if they meet in heaven, you know, the thief on the cross and and the Apostle Paul would meet in heaven, you know, and they ask, "How did you get here? Like, what have you done, or what are the things that you know experience in life?" And of course, Apostle Paul, you know, we know the story and this and all that, the things that he has done for Christ. And then on the other hand, the thief on the cross, he has done nothing. I mean, it all boils down to you know what really is God's ordained um path for that person. God wanted Apostle Paul to be the apostle and you know advocate for the Gentiles and all that in the church. And then he also chose this thief on the cross who is no longer able to do anything in his life but to you know have that relationship with Jesus Christ and believe in him before he died. So
So I want to propose this question to you then. All right,
sure.
because it's a two-part question. All right. First question. You said Paul, right? Do
Yes,
you think overall Paul was successful?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. Do you think Peter? This is I'm adding that
Yeah, yeah.
part in. Do you think Peter was successful?
Yeah, I think so too.
All right. I could say that on both of their journeys, they both had failures
Yeah.
that they had to overcome. The difference between them and the guy, the sinner on the cross, is he accepted Jesus as his personal savior and recognized prior to death. Um, so we might can look at him and just say, "Yo, it's a success just to make it into heaven." If you wanna go with that and just answer it successfully in that regards. If you made it into heaven, you successful, bro. That was a success, in itself. If you want to use that, um, but I go back to like even when we talk about David. What I mean, David was successful in many ways, and he had a lot of mess ups. He was unsuccessful in a lot of ways. Like David was the ultimate king. David was the, if we look at the requirements, right? David, would y'all say David fulfilled his purpose for the most part?
Yeah.
Okay, but we can also argue and say David was a failure of a father,
He is.
Mm-hmm.
right? I
Yep.
mean, Eddie, do you disagree with that? You,
No, no,
we can say,
I agree. I agree to that extent.
I'm saying he was successful in many ways, but he was a horrible father. We can argue
Well,
that he had to be to a certain degree because he was the king. But on the flip side, I his son followed in his footsteps. The most wisest man in the world. Was he successful?
see, see
Absolutely. Did he fail as a father?
that is
Absolutely.
why I am inclined to believe success is, for me, success is like, mission accomplished. That is success. Trying to
But
measure
if we
success
if we
in
if we
between might be
Eddie,
tricky a
if
bit.
if we if we if we measure it only for that in the way that you want to, then the only person I can truly say deep down inside that was mission success was Jesus himself. That's the only
Exactly.
person that you can say that was truly completely successful. So then you're saying that there's no way we can measure up to him.
Just because someone failed in between does not make that person unsuccessful, right? You can fail a million times, but be
But so
successful.
this is the reason why I don't. This is the reason why I don't subscribe to what you're saying, because what you're saying is, all right, Jesus was successful in all things. All right, David was successful in whatever you want to say his purpose was, but he was unsuccessful as a husband. He was unsuccessful as a father. All right. Um, so Jesus was the only person that was successful in all things. There's no other person on earth that was completely successful at everything that they done. And so I'm only I to me, I guess it really comes down to your value and what you value. Like on here, Joash is the only one I would assume have kids. Am I correct? Right. So
Yeah.
if I was to stand and meet Joash in person, if his wife has a highly regarded respect for him, if his kids look up to him as their superhero, that's their dad, they love him, and they have the utmost respect for him, right? If his friends and peers love and respect him, he can be one of the brokest guys in the world. I would still look at him and say he was successful in the things that are more important because you can tell by their fruit. Then you can look at somebody else and say, hey, this guy was successful in making money, but he was a horrible father. Him and his wife don't get along with each other. You know what I mean? But he makes millions of dollars. He's a success. There's things that I could take from his life and be like, I want to take and imply that to my life. And then there's things from Joash's life where his family and loved ones and people around him cherish him and love him. Those things I would take from Joash's life and apply it to my life as well. If I had to say if I wanted to choose between one of the two, I would as a Christian, I would prefer the life of Joash. So even if I had to choose on a personal level, as much as we want to consider the success that David had, on a personal level, I would prefer to be a better father than to have achieved all those things. I prefer to be a better husband because that's what we're instructed to do from the very beginning. First, you look puzzled.
Because yeah, I was thinking on the flip side, I do agree, with the fruits and all of these things. But even people who doesn't know Christ can have those kind of fruit. You know what I'm saying? So I people or people who doesn't know Christ, I don't know who they are, but I believe so that they can also have that kind of reputation where they get along with their wife, their kids. They have a lot of their friends tell good things about them.
So
But
hold on, before you ask your question, let me phrase this in this
yeah,
way real quick because
sure.
I'm gonna let you out of stage. So they have that. You said there's people in the world that have that type of relationship, right?
Right.
And they don't need to know Christ. All right. What is more important, though, as a human being when you stand before God, regardless of what you're about to say, even the person that doesn't know Christ, but was those things to their wife and to their kids and things of that nature, right? When you stand before God and answer to Him, what is the things that you want to be accountable for? Because if you say that you agree, but even people in the world, the people that are successful in the world that are doing those things, at the end of the day, I would give them honor for what they're doing.
For
They
sure.
failed in not having a personal relationship with God. That's where they failed at. But if they doing all those things right, if they're the perfect husband and they raising the kids right, because to me that's a moral thing that God put on this earth, whether you saved or not saved. You know what I mean? That's a thing that if you was growing up as an Israelite, as a Canaanite, as whatever it is, you know what I mean? Those are things that people will respect you for. You know what I mean? Being successful in those things. I don't know if it's just me talking. I see Joe actually nodding his head with me, but I don't know if he agreeing with me. I don't know if Eddie's agreeing with me neither. And I don't want to I don't want to control the conversation and take over, but Joash,
But
why you
yeah,
nodding your head? Talk to me.
yeah.
And Fritz,
I think
hold
that's
on, Fritz. I still want you to take part in what you were saying. But Joash, what are you nodding your head for? What are you agreeing on or disagreeing on?
yeah, because again, I have this this Bible truth in my mind that's currently running, right? That both the believers and unbelievers will be judged. The judgment is based on whether the first one for the unbelievers, of course, they will be, you know, in eternity without God. And believers, it's not a matter of, just going to heaven, but there are certain like rewards that they will have.
Hmm.
So I think for us believers, there's already a standard, like what you're saying, where we could measure, even while we're still alive, if we are hitting, God's expectations in this side of life, in this side of eternity. But even earlier, like what Fritz was saying, I also had this experience just this week. I just buried two twins, 5 years old, two beautiful, precious girls who died in an accident, a fire accident. It was really disheartening. They died out of fire. Their helpers left them burning in the room, and it was really dramatic. But looking in retrospect, looking back on that, somehow the two may have served their purpose because their parents, as I talk with them and counsel them, I think they are not yet in that certain level of faith. So I think of course God didn't will that would happen, but by His mercy He allowed them to have at least 5 years of being with their daughters. And now, even in their brokenness, they're looking up to God right now. So I think technically they serve their purpose. Maybe if that's what God was intending for them to know Him. But I'm not even sure if these 5 year olds, knew Jesus in the first place. But that's not for me to judge. But what I'm saying is, for the unbelievers, there's a different standard. For the believers, what you're saying, Aaron, we could actually check our lives right now in light of God's word. Like, as a family man, as a married man, as a disciple, and things like that. We can actually uh, measure our success in this side of life while we're still alive. We can hold each other accountable, push each other, towards those written standards that God has for us.
All right,
So
Fritz, take it away, man.
No, I agree. I agree. The only thing that I'm saying is that because we're talking about spiritual success, right? And at the end of the day, that's what we're pursuing, and that's
Well,
what
hold
we
on before you go into your spiel again. To you, define spiritual success because that's I think that's the thing that we're getting hung up on.
right.
The definition of what spiritual success is. So for me, spiritual success is what me and Joash had talked about.
Right.
Eddie
So
said spiritual success is something that at the end of the day, when he looks back on his life and does a reflection, he was saying,
get to check.
yeah, he checked it off. I'm saying,
Yeah.
so what are you saying? What you saying is it is?
Okay. Before I answer that, let me. I'll go to that.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
I'll
You
go to
got the
that. So,
floor. You got the floor.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So basically, what I'm saying is that what I'm saying before is that um, of course, unbelievers can also do that, right? Morally, they can have beautiful families, beautiful friends, and beautiful life. Now, if we're talking about spiritual success in as us believers in our Christian walk, I also picture the same thing. The only difference is, and I think the most important difference is that it's rooted not just on the moral standards that we uphold, but the fruitful relationship that we have with Jesus Christ. Is you know I think that's the more um not more, but the for me the primary success that we can consider, because I can have a beautiful life right now. Like, my family is good, I have a beautiful girlfriend and all that, all those things. But if my heart and if my life is not rooted and overflowing from the love of Christ and my relationship with Him and my communion with Him, and not so really in His presence. That those things are, I would say, um checklists, but not really things that we I could consider the things that you know counts as success, because I could um what Paul said, I could say all these things, I can offer myself as a burning sacrifice, but if I do not have love, that those things are futile. So that's
All
what
right,
I'm
so
coming from.
all right, so look though, Fritz. In saying what you said, the Bible says in Matthew 22, and this is Jesus speaking. He says, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind." That checks off what you just said, right?
Right.
That checks off what you just said. All right. Then he said, "This is the first and greatest commandment, and the second is like unto it: Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself." To me, that love thy neighbor as thyself part, when you start looking at what Jesus' mission was in saving souls and things of that nature, I think that second part of love is what I'm speaking of when you talk about being a great father. You could tell the fruits of his labor. You know what I mean? You could tell how successful he was by the fruit he bear. You know what I mean? The people around him. So when I say, I look and say, if I met Joe Ash in person, I see his family loves him, his wife adores him. Um, he was a great son to his mom. To his, he respects his dad. His dad, respects him. Like he has a great relationship with the people that he's loved and supported by. You know what I mean? To me, that speaks volumes as well. You know what I mean? More so
Absolutely.
than what we are saying at the end. Good and faithful servant, you made it. You know what I mean, or whatever the case may be. I'm not discrediting that we are to Eddie. What you got? Two vocals things on or something? You won twice.
Okay.
Nah, you good. You good. I just wanted to say you won twice though, brother. Nah, turn your camera back on, man.
I did not switch the other machine off.
Oh, all right. Well, yeah, but you won twice. It's all good. I tried to disconnect you in the other one, but
Okay.
you jumped back on. All right, but anyway, so um yeah, you jump back on again, but it's cool. It's cool. Uh you made me forget my point, man. Now I feel like I'm just
Sorry.
rambling. Um but anyway, I feel like when Jesus commanded those two things, the first part was to first be successful in your personal relationship with loving God. All right. The second part is love thy neighbor as thyself. But I think that can be put out in a broader situation of saying, like, again, we know Joash by his fruit. You understand what I'm saying? I know Eddie by his fruit. If I go to Eddie's, if I meet Eddie in person, and if I visit him in Kenya, two things should be evident. A, his love for God, right? And then B, the people that love him and how they love and adore him, his fruit that he bears. So if he had children or whatever the case may be, if I see his kids and they're bad and they're running around and they cursing at him and so on and so forth, and they don't, you know what I mean? He's not successful. He's not successful in that area. You understand what I'm saying? I don't know. Maybe maybe
100%.
maybe I'm just maybe I'm just rambling on. I mean, Eddie, what do you think about what I'm saying? Because you jumped off for a second. So what you think about what I'm saying?
I I think my problem is maybe the definition of success, I guess. Because for me, like I said when we began, success to me is at the
When it's
finish line.
done.
When you're done, that is when I'll say you're successful. If
Okay,
I ask you to
so hold
travel
on, Eddie.
from
Hold on, Eddie. So I want to challenge. All right, let me first of all let me make sure you're the only one who is coming to this conclusion. Joash, are you concluding the same thing that Eddie's concluded?
No.
All right, Fritz, are you concluding the same thing Eddie's concluding?
That success is all at the end.
At the end, yeah, when you check it all off, when you reflect back and
No.
all right, cool. So Eddie, you're the only one standing on this ship. Eddie, have you been successful thus far?
In what regard? You know,
It's
I
a yes
am
or no answer,
specifically.
man. It's a yes or no answer. Have you been successful thus far?
What are we measuring?
In
My
general, because you
spiritual
said,
journey,
hold
or
on, Eddie, you're saying that you can't measure success until to the end,
yes.
but you also are also admitting that you don't know what to measure it by. So how am I even to measure what your success? Eddie, if you was to
Look,
pass away, tomorrow, could we say you were successful?
if I'm gonna measure success by let's say you
Eddie, hold on, Eddie. Listen, Eddie. I'm not trying to be difficult with you, brother. Check me out, Eddie.
yeah,
I,
yeah.
I'm one of those type of guys. Well, I like direct answers. You could tell me your story afterwards, but I want you to answer the question yes or no, and then you can explain it. But don't give me the explanation, and then through the explanation
Okay.
you never get an answer. So I'm
However,
asking you directly: if you was to pass away tomorrow, will
uh-huh.
we be able to say, "Yo, Eddie was a successful guy"? Yes or no?
No, no.
That's deep.
See, again, I'm saying no because right now we are talking about, success from a spiritual standpoint. And honestly,
So,
looking at myself, I
all right,
wouldn't
Eddie,
say
hold
I
on,
am.
Eddie. I'm sorry, Eddie. I gotta ask you. So, is success different in other? So, success is
Yes,
different in other ways.
totally, totally.
So, all right. So, what were
If
you
you
successful in, Eddie? If success is different in other ways, what were you successful in?
Okay, good. Now, if you're going to measure success by earthly, material, worldly material, I could say pretty much there are things I have here and there that I'd say I was successful in owning that, or achieving that. But it comes
All right,
to
Eddie, check this out.
this.
You know how when we talk about the females and stuff, and we say
Uh-huh.
whatever they bring to the table,
Hmm.
right? All your earthly things are unimportant to us. It's
Hmm.
unimportant to me, Joe Ash, and Fritz. That's
Good,
unimportant.
good.
All right, so next, what's success?
Okay. Sorry, ask. Oh, you know what? How can I sit here and say I am successful from a spiritual standpoint, yet the only way I will ever know that is not by. There's no way I will 100% say I am successful from a spiritual standpoint, because we have one judge somewhere, that will judge us all, and say you are successful or you are not, right?
No, I disagree with you. Fritz, counter that, Fritz.
although
Counter that,
although
Fritz.
yeah, although I'm understanding where you're coming from, Eddie, because you're talking about the ultimate prize, like the ultimate end of the things that you're pertaining to. Okay, at the end of the day, it's Jesus, it's God who will say if you're successful or not. Ultimate end. But again, that we're talking also about the things in our Christian life, spiritual in our spiritual walk, where as we journey, as we fulfill, or as we walk on the God's ordained purpose in our life, there are also hurdles, there are also things that he gives and brings into our life that needs overcoming and needs change, or needs reformation, or needs things that to be removed, right? So there are things that God wants us to change, or to be. And if we are doing those things, like for example for me, I don't have like the longest temper when I'm driving, right? So as a Christian, right, I need to change that, because it's not displaying a Christ-like character, not just to those people are driving around me, but also to those who are sitting beside me in the car. So they're able to see my attitude and the things that or the things that coming into my mind. So I have to change that, and if I am able to change that, then I believe that is a success. No, not the ultimate success, because you know we are not going to heaven because we are patient in the road, but it's still um a successful transformation that God is creating in our lives inwardly and then later on outwardly. So
Eddie, this is why I also disagree with you. In Matthew chapter 6, verse 33, Jesus lets us know that the path to success is to seek his kingdom first and his righteousness, and all other things will be added unto us.
Yeah.
So to me, obedience to God, which is empowered by the Spirit of God, motivated by love for God, and that directs us towards the advancement of God's kingdom. To me, that is the ultimate success when it's all said and done, right? So if if we follow those steps on a personal level, whether you know what your purpose is or not, if you are obedient to God and God's word, to me, you are a success. Eddie, I don't know if Eddie's frozen or not.
he just dropped out.
Hey, he's back. Do you two agree with that though?
I do.
Yeah.
I love it. I was trying to type it, tweet it.
Now, Matthew chapter 6, verse 33, though, I'm saying that's Jesus saying it. Or be obedient to God and be righteous. To me, that's the starting point of the measurement. Jesus told you himself. He said, I'll leave you with two commandments. Love God with all your heart, and then love thy neighbor.
Mhm.
Those are the two starting points for the measurement. So hold on, Eddie. Eddie, do you love God? All
Yes, I do.
right, so if you was to pass tomorrow, the only thing to me that outside of you telling me on a personal level that you love God, the only other way that I can tell that you love God is by your fruits.
Preach.
So yo Eddie, you know the beautiful thing about all of this to me. Let me one personal thing that I've learned, right? See, you want to look back. See, the thing that I don't. One of the main reasons why I disagree with you, Eddie, is you want to look back. You want the job is done, and you want to look back and have this beautiful reflection of, right? Yeah, I was able to do this and that. I actually look at that and say that's kind of selfish in a way. To me, whenever you want to brag about something, the best way to brag is not to brag at all. Let other people do it for you. Right? When you die, Eddie, it's not going to be you sitting there saying, oh, I made it. It's going to be the people that you impact and touch lives that's going to be standing giving a testimony about what you've done in their life. That's the impact. That's the fruit. It's not what you're going to sit there and say, hey, I made it. Nobody cares what you think, to be truthfully honest with you. It's all about the fruit that you leave, Eddie. So if you was to die today and I attended your funeral, I can tell by the fruit that you left. Go ahead. You want to debate me on this? So what else?
Yes, please. Now, two things. Two things you mentioned. Two things. Matthew 6:33. You say that is the starting point, right?
Right.
Of success, starting point. So it is not yet success if it is a starting point. Secondly, when you mention
I never said
fruit,
I never said. Listen, you're
Uh-huh.
looking. Where we disagree on. So let us touch and agree on this. What we disagreeing on is not the point itself. What we are disagreeing on is you're saying that the journey needs to be completed for you to
Yes,
measure my
yes.
success. And I
Yes.
am saying that the measure of success is by the fruit of your labor. And that fruit of labor can be while you here on earth or when you pass away. You can bear fruit during your life and afterwards. Either or. It doesn't need to be a aha moment when you just said, I completed my journey now. I'm done. No, your measurement, that's not how you measure your success. As a matter of fact, Eddie, I'm a businessman. In order for me to be successful and stay successful, I have to fall, I have to fail, and I have to go through this journey and navigate to become a successful businessman. You have to take losses and you have to win some and lose some. But you have to be successful, you have to kind of be ahead of the game, and you gotta take some L's, and you gotta overcome some challenges. And and when it's all said and done, Eddie, as a businessman, so let's take the Christian part out of it. As a businessman, right? I have to succeed and fail. Look, Eddie, as a successful husband, we're going to fail in that journey too. One of the things, remember what I said. One of the things about David that made David ultimately successful, because we can all sit here and agree that David was successful in some things, David failed on a lot of things. But what David did, what David was successful in, when we're talking about obedience to God, he had a heart for God. He was successful in that. And if I go back to Joash and say, Joash, your wife loves you, it's going to be many of times where I can sit here and say, I know for a fact there are times when Joash's wife hates him.
Come on, Aaron.
But at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, right, I would still say, even the times that she hate him, she still love him because he's a good man. He has a we can make mistakes. Good men can make mistakes, Eddie.
True.
So I'll give you back the floor. I'm just saying where we disagree, because you said you're making a point that your point is success starts there, and I'm saying to you that yes, we are agreeing with you. Success does start there. Where we disagree, I want to at least agree on where we disagree at. You're saying that it can't be measured until it's completed, and I'm saying to you that if I went to your place right now and met people around you and met your family and met everything, I can tell right there if you're being successful up to this point by the people that you touch. I don't need to wait until you die or whatever. And that's where I feel like we're disagreeing. I feel like I'm slowly bringing you on to the other side. Fritz, Joe, I mean, are y'all agreeing, disagreeing? Like, are we on the same page? What? Talk to me, y'all.
Yeah, I think both we're disagreeing on what counts. So I think Eddie's talking about it only counts at the end, but we're talking about it counts now. When we start, success counts now when we overcome something or we achieve something. So yeah.
Well, so let me ask this then, Fritz, to you. Are you agreeing with me, or are you agreeing with Eddie at all? Or are you saying that it does count now? I understand that you understand what we're both saying. I want to know
Yeah.
where you sit at on it.
Yeah, just like what I was explaining to Eddie earlier. When I'm driving, I need to, extend my patience. And if I able to extend my patience, that in my spiritual life, through the transformation of the spirit, then I count that as success. So I'm successful, a Christian who overcomes my short-temperedness, right? So that counts. That already counts. So
Matter of fact, hold
and
on. I'm sorry, Fritz. I don't mean to cut you off, man. I'm sorry.
sure.
Fritz just planted this in my head when he said this. Fritz said that he has sometimes he ill temper when he drives. Am I correct?
Yes.
All right. So, Eddie, I'm gonna ask you this question: If Fritz went to work earlier today in his car, right, made it home without being ill tempered, and he has to do that again tomorrow, the next day, and the next day. But for today, did he made it home successful?
Yes, he did for today,
All right, but
right?
we
So
can measure, that he made it home successful today. The journey's
let,
still not done. You got to do it again.
let me maybe I think let me add this. What
Oh,
if
hold on,
I?
Eddie, hold on. I cut Fritz off, so I want to give Fritz
Oh,
the floor.
sorry.
Then you can respond. Then
No,
you can
it's
respond
okay.
to
It's
him.
okay. Go on, Eddie. Go on, Eddie. It's
I
fine.
could argue and say them. What we are talking about right now is the success process. What if I'd argue that way? What you guys are calling success is the success process. You're meant to get from point A to B, from A to Z. Yeah. Now, if you're at point Q, you've been successful to, your success process is going on A to Q, but you're heading to Z. At the end, we'll say, yes, so and so finished from A to Z. So that was a successful journey from A to Z. You cannot say you're successful and then fail at letter Y, point Y. So how do you measure success before you complete the task at hand?
Because I just argue with you that you can still fail and still be successful. If you fail at point Y, that's fine. It's because success is overall the journey. You don't have to be measured completely at the end. You can be measured during the time you're doing it. Again, David failed at the end of his life. He was more of a failure than he was a success. So if
Yeah, I
you were
agree.
to say at the end, David was a successful man, you said he was successful. Well, what made him successful? Because he was failing at the end, bro. Though the end of his life was where all of the you reap what you sow, all the badness that he reaped,
Yes.
he sowed. I mean, he was reaping it towards the end of his life. If we were to look at David at the end of his life, he was very unsuccessful. But we have to look at the total picture. I get you on that. We got to look at the total picture. But if I'm looking at the total picture, there's a lot of things that I could pull from his life that he was successful in, and there's a lot of things I could pull from his life that he was unsuccessful in. I can measure that though. I could have measured that while he was living though. I didn't need to wait for him to die to look at that and figure that out, Eddie. That's what we're trying to say. Let me ask you this last question, and then I'll give Fritz and Joash a chance to respond to. Your pastor, why do you respect your pastor?
Yes, I do.
Is he a successful man?
Again, spiritually, I will never know that. People, we are
Well, well,
humans.
so why
We
is he
cannot
your
see.
pastor?
I cannot see
Why is
someone's heart.
why is he why is he if you can't see his heart, why is he your pastor? To me, him being your pastor you should be able to see his heart at, for him to be your shepherd. That's one of the things that should be one of the reasons why you attracted to wanting to follow him in the first place. Am I wrong, Joash? Fritz?
Yeah, because the fruit of his life, of a life of a spiritual leader, you see it in his relationships, his integrity. So yeah, we follow people that we look to as successful, whether in business or in our spirituality. So I got what you're saying, Aaron, and I agree with that. Maybe it's just Eddie is just seeing looking at the bigger picture. So partly there's that measurement of the ultimate measurement when you die, but I again we can check, you know, our current journey if we are leading a successful life or not. So that's for me.
I don't want to make it seem like me and Eddie are debating with each other because it's
Yeah,
not that.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's not that, Eddie.
It,
You
it,
know what I
it's
mean?
just a totally different perspective. I don't know if you know. Um, this is an apologist. He's very renowned apologist. He's very good. Like he's traveled around the world, and he has this ministry where he, just I think just given an answer to any
What's his name?
debate. His name is Ravi
Zachariah.
Zacharias.
That's my guy,
Yeah,
man.
Oh,
That's my
okay,
guy.
okay.
He was successful in many ways, but at the end of his life, man,
yeah, yeah. That's what I was thinking. That's what I was
All
thinking.
right, there we go,
I
there we
think
go.
that's the point. I think where Eddie is coming from, where
Exactly.
when
Let's
we're looking
go.
at him and hearing and just watching all of those things that he's saying and all those things, and then at the end of his life, there's
Mhm.
this revelation where we know the things that he
but
he was accused
so
of,
so
and
hold on then, Fritz. So if Eddie is going to hold Ravi Zachariah to the criteria, then how can we not hold David to the same criteria?
Yeah, I mean the point here is that
But hold
with
on, no, I can't. I would love for Eddie to answer that then, because if you're going to say Ravi Zachariah at the end of the day, right, when it's all said and done and it's complete, and you look back and say he was a failure or whatever the case may be, because my argument to all of that is not for me to judge. You know what I
right,
mean? It's not for
exactly,
me to
yeah.
judge. It's for God to judge at
Exactly.
the end of the
Yeah,
day.
that's what Eddie is thinking. We cannot judge ultimately if Ravi Zacharias was definitely Ravi has so much impact. For me
Yes,
personally, he has so much impact, right? That's unquestionable. Like so much wisdom, so much knowledge he has imparted. But again, I think that that was Eddie is coming from where um we cannot see it like you are doing ministry. You're very good. You have so much impact in your ministry in your life, and then at the end of your life, there's something revealed. But even if it was not revealed, we cannot say. I think that's Eddie's point.
and I still disagree with that point. Let me say this. Hold on, because because the Bible says, and also in Matthew chapter 7, um, it talks about the narrow road and the wide road. All right. Later on in that chapter, Jesus says people will do many things in his name, prophesy, heal, a whole plethora of things. And at the end of it, I never knew you.
Right.
All right. I never knew you. People are going to stand in front of him and say, I did all these things in your name. I performed miracles. I did this, that, and the third. And he's standing there like, but I never knew you. And then in John, I think it's John chapter 10, Jesus tells you how you can know him. Obey my commandments. Follow me. Have a relationship with him. And John, I think it's John chapter 10, verse 20 or something like that. But he speaks on that. My children know me because they follow me. So if that main thing is following them and listening to what he says, you understand what I'm saying? So my thing with Ravi Zachariah, because you can't sit here and say Ravi didn't. Ravi, I could tell you at this particular point in time, one of the things that's mind-boggling to me is the time when Jesus, the disciples were meeting, they was going around preaching, and Jesus was in the midst of them. And I don't remember what verse it is, but there was a magician or something like that was also healing and doing a whole bunch of things. And they came up to Jesus and was like, Jesus, this guy is a total hypocrite. Da da da. He's doing this, that, and Jesus was like, yo, let him live. Let him do what he do. And that kind of mind boggled me for a while, right? And so, but at the end of the day, whether excuse me, whether the gentleman was having some sort of impact, he was spreading the gospel. He was doing good and didn't even know. And at the end of the day, he's gonna be one of those. He was one of those people that I never knew you. You know what I'm saying? So Ravi Zachariah, I would say this, Eddie, just like David. Then, if you could sit here and say David fulfilled his purpose, even though Ravi Zachariah failed as a husband, as a father, in your regards, he did fulfill his purpose, though. He brought up many people to Christ, and a lot of people listened to him and was saved because of him and what he did. If you want to look at that, you can say he saved his purpose. I would say he was successful in his mission. He failed in his marriage. He failed as a role model to his kids. And to me, Eddie, when you stand before God, those things are going to be way more important than all the lives that he touched is very important. But in him bringing souls, and at the end of the day, we can sit here and say, all those people that you brought, I never knew you. I'm not saying that he don't know Jesus. He got an answer for that. You know what I mean? But he's going to be judged a lot more on his role as a father and as a husband, more than he is about what he accomplished. And that's the reason why I can sit here and say today that I can measure a person by their fruit. But here's the thing, Eddie, because I look at Ravi Zachariah, so Joash and Fritz, right? Because we could argue today, there's a lot of false prophets and false pastors who are successful, right?
Absolutely.
And so you can sit and say, well, they're successful, they're fruitful. And the key thing is the reason why I care so much. If people would have really got a chance to get to know Ravi Zachariah, we would have known from the get-go, if you got to know him personally, that his family situation is all messed up. I would have started knowing, if I would have got the chance to get to know him personally, I would have recognized immediately something is off with this guy. Not because he's successful out there, because he's not successful in his home. So when I look at a pastor and anything else, when you get to know the man, right, to really know someone, the fruit of their labor will be toned by the people that are surrounded by him, not strictly off of his impact. Joash, you agree with that, Joash?
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's why when I made my statement, Eddie, I said, if I met Joash in person, Joash can go. I know Fritz and Joash stands up in front of many of people and preach and deliver the message. And that sounds all well and good. At the end of the day, if I was to sit there and say I wanted to have Fritz or Joash be my pastor, I'm not going to judge that by how many people they impact out there. It's going to be based around the people that are loving them, that's close to them, what impact. Because when I sit down, and need to be disciplined about something, when I need to come for advice, I'm not coming for advice to be a pastor. My pastor can't give me I don't want to learn how to preach. That's not the type of advice. I need advice as a man. I'm struggling in my home. My pastor need to be successful in his home in order for him to give me advice, for me to want to sit and listen to. You understand what I'm saying, Eddie?
Yep.
And it's 11 o'clock. And y'all want to add anything, take away, say anything else?
Go ahead, E.
I, I guess my where we do not agree on is maybe the definition of success, right? For me, success is actually the Oxford Dictionary defines it as an outcome, right? So we could say I'm successful in this and this and this, and not that and that and that.
Let's look it up. Oxford definition
of success. It's like, an outcome.
Hold on. I got you, my brother. All right, because one of the things, Eddie, people do when they study is they don't always look at the whole big picture of everything. Can you see my screen? Fellas, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
So this is the Oxford Learners Dictionary website. Success is a noun. All right. First definition, uncountable, the fact that you have achieved something that you want and have been trying to do or get. The company has achieved considerable success in this market. Initially, the venture enjoyed a fair amount of success. So here, the mission is not complete in this definition. Success is doing something. Success in doing something. I didn't have.
So
go ahead.
So then, as a Christian, what is our ultimate?
Hold on, no. So one of the things I wanted you to see here, though, Eddie, is success has more than one definition in the Oxford Dictionary. And so for me, when you are reading a definition, you also got to read on how it's being positioned and used. Second definition, on account, and I learned this from Bible studying, especially if you want to get deeper into the word. Words have the way, even them being nouns, pronouns, verbs, you know what I mean? Those are
Yeah.
linked to other words. The fact of becoming rich or famous or of getting high social position. There's another one. A person or thing that has achieved good result and been successful. I would argue all three of our answers, all three of these definitions would define what we have all said on this podcast.
True. But remember, it was success from a Christian, standpoint. For me,
What's the difference though, Eddie? Success from a Christian standpoint. I'm still, if I meet Joash as a Christian and he's a Christian man and he's successful with his family and he's successful with his life with Christ, well, he's following God commandments. You know what I mean? He's praying, reading, studying, and even on top of that, it's not even on me to judge if he is or not. But the only thing I can do is bring correction to him if I see that something is off. And if he makes the proper changes, he's still, you know what I mean? You can see the fruit by his willingness, his heart to want to change and do the right thing. The job. I don't need Jesus at the end to say, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." I'm also not only I want God to say that to me, but I also want my peers and my friends to say that as well while I'm here on earth. Affirmation is important.
Well, I agree with that, yeah.
Affirmation brings more and more success. It keeps the spirit high for more success and the wanting to do more. And Eddie, I don't want to make this like going against you, man. I don't want to make it seem like this. We got a couple of people that's responding to us here. Let me just give them a shout out. I want to give a shout out to Grace. She says, "A successful life is yielded to obedience to God's word." Trixie says, "Hey guys, good show." She also said, "Preach." She says, "As they say, a man is known by his success." All right, shout out to FPJ Pro Creator. Success standards are in scriptures. Great convo. And one more shout out. You can be successful in ministry and yet fail in your marriage. And that's what we're saying. So fellas, would y'all want to consider finish this conversation on the next episode? Maybe we all can go back in and do some research or whatever and bring it and present it to the table.
Yes.
To the council. Present it to the council. You know what I mean? On what maybe we can even ask some of our people in our church, some of our loved ones, what is success as a Christian? And come up with a definition. I would love to hear, because Eddie, I'm going to also say, I think partially, by me saying this, I don't know if it's right or wrong to say this. I'm not saying it to be racist or whatever the case may be. I'm saying culturally, maybe how people perceive and how things are in your culture. Maybe just the people that you're surrounded with, maybe they all have that view, so you have that view.
Actually, no. I wouldn't say that because, I mean,
I'm not saying that's the case. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just suggesting.
Yeah. No. I wouldn't know.
But because it's mind-boggling to me that you don't look at your pastor and say he's a successful man.
Honestly speaking, I'd be lying if I say, I know for sure he's successful from a spiritual or Christian standpoint.
You say you know that he is or he isn't?
Only God can say that. At the end of the day, God is the one that will say, you made it. You were successful.
So you don't think Jesus, when Jesus said, "You're known by their fruits," he's not a fruitful man?
Like you guys have mentioned, it's called Zachariah. He was successful in bringing people to. But for me, if you're talking about success from a Christian standpoint. What is our goal as Christians to get into the kingdom of heaven? So if I do not get into the kingdom of heaven, then I've not been successful. Even if I did a million good things or brought a billion people to Christ, if I did not get to heaven, I wasn't successful.
I would say the ultimate goal is not the ultimate get. I would say yes, get to heaven, but the ultimate goal is to have a personal relationship with Christ. I think that's the ultimate goal. I think that's the reward for having that is getting to heaven. But my goal in life is not to sit there and say, "Oh, I just want to make it to heaven." My goal in life is to grow my personal relationship with Christ, and that could be evident. You can measure my success of that by the fruit that I bear. I don't know. Because I don't. Again, I don't want to make this like it's me and you. You actually just going back and forth with each other, man. You know what I mean? Let me see here. FPJ wrote. I think we said this already. He said, "Success standards are in scriptures." Great convo, and I think I said this. You can be successful in marriage. Yeah, he said that already. All right, man. Joe Ash and Frisk, I need y'all to, you know what I mean? Joe Ash looked like I seen Joe Ash join a couple of times. I think he tired. I think he winding down. But yeah, man, I want y'all, you know, you guys to jump in on this, man. Don't let me. I don't want to. My job is to lead the conversation, so I might cut in here, but I do want y'all to, you know. Let this be the platform for y'all to do y'all thing, man. I don't, you know, I have a whole bunch of other podcasts that I debate on. I would rather listen to y'all debate and enjoy it rather than me debate.
So Fritz, Fritz, I disagree with your disagree. No, but yeah, I see where I think there's a tension between long term and the short term way of seeing things. But yeah, I would go to going with that perspective where we could do something in this life, make the adjustment, and like what scriptures tell us, like let's spur on each other towards love and good deeds. So that again, that's where Aaron's saying, when you know God's love, you're living on the God's love, you're faithful. I think that's success, on the human point of view. So as we wrap up, I think it's good, to check our lives if we're aligned with what God expects of us, and really not be like successful in the outside merely, but we're rotting on the inside, or people are gonna find out when we're at the end of our lives. So I think the encouragement here is to live, as we're growing in our understanding of God's will, we are to pursue, inside out. Again, what scriptures say, pursue purity along with those whose hearts are pure as well. So I think that's where we're getting here. I think, and that's for all our listeners and those who are watching right now. Success is really attainable by God's grace. These things that God is expecting on us to live by. And again, in church community, by His Spirit, we get to check on each other and push each other towards those clear standards written in Scripture, loving God and loving people. And yes, let's long for that commendation. Well done and good and faithful servant. But it's again, less like speaking as a pastor, and I've done many memorial services. This is like my most meaningful job as a pastor. Whenever I do memorial services, because at the end of a person's life, it actually matters how people will remember us at the end of our lives. And so I've seen people who try to honor the dead, even make fun of them, even so I don't want to be make fun of when I'm there in the box. I well, though I'm not sure how I'm gonna hear it, but to those who are still alive, the people that I'll be leaving, I want my life to be a legacy, a life that would point them to continue to pursue God by His grace. That's it for me.
Any last words, Fritz?
Yeah. I just wanna make a point where um we're talking about success, and for our listeners, we we guys are talking about success. That doesn't necessarily follow that we are pursuing success, because just like what we're talking about, success is a fruit, right? Success is a byproduct of what we really have as Christians, and that's our relationship with God and our relationship with Christ. So please, when you listen to us, don't please don't think that you have to pursue these things, you have to get these things, or you have to achieve these things, because those things are byproducts, right? Those things are fruits of a fruitful relationship, a fruitful communion, and a fruitful bond with God. So um we are not looking at, and we are not focusing on the things that are achievable, but we are clinging on the things, or we're not clinging on the thing, but we're clinging on the person, and that is God. So
Eddie, you want to leave us with some last words? I was admiring your
Amen,
book.
amen.
I was admiring your library back there, man. You got a lot of books.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I enjoy reading. Anyway, I just wanted to say, Josh and Fritz have said it perfectly well. I wouldn't add anything. I'm like,
Cool, cool. I just want to give a shout out to the fellas. Thank y'all for listening. I think this was a great, healthy conversation. We'd love to continue it next
let's make it
week.
2 hours. Just kidding.
Word, word. Yo, we signing out, man. Holla at your boys.